To be the paradox is to have the ability to be able to hold the paradox that allows us to play the game that we came here to play. Or rather, more accurately, the game that we are playing. All the confusion, all the questions that arise for the Dwapar Yuga mind, seeking mind, is born naturally, simply a phenomena that happens when a we, as a person, unconscious of our true nature, lives as I am duality, as if a separate self, inner world, splitting the reality, the life that we are, into two, inner and outer. Conscious, this game of duality is sheer joy, a challenge that we can accept, an adventurous ride that we can take on, because we know what our true identity is. It's in response to many questions received in the same theme of, when we start seeking, right? And the seeking mind is looking outwards. And because this seeking mind is the Dwapar Yuga mind, and we are so deeply, deeply conditioned, doesn't matter where we come from. I mean, the flavors of it might be different, but we're deeply conditioned that where we are, what we are, is not okay, and that there is somewhere else to be. We live this in the Dwapar Yuga, this thing, and that's the theme. So subtle, we find it in everything. This is when we are identified only as the relative, that all the confusion, all the struggle, all the feeling of feeling limited arises from, naturally. One divine consciousness playing uniquely as the many. Wisdom is to know, to be the paradox, is to be able to hold the paradox. And what is the paradox? The nature, one may say, of these two aspects of us. Pure consciousness, which is called another word, Shiva, that which we are, that we really cannot speak about. It's the unseen, doesn't have any qualities, but is all there is. Shiva, in order to experience itself, the only one self, appears, becoming the mind, simply an appearance, and then becomes Shakti. Shakti is the mind, one mind, but that mind is infinite worlds of different ways of being, different worlds, stories, ideas. One such is that is subjectively, one may say, that we're experiencing in me, I, you, as the human experience. Identified only with the identity at the level of form, as the body, separate self, as a person, living in a separate world. This creates a certain dynamic, but it's a dynamic that's a play in perceived limitation. When we only are identified with our relative identity of the person, then there is confusion. Then there is the experience of hitting walls with limitations, scarcity, lack, the need to control, whether it's the self or the world. Then there is the game of me, you. And this is the paradigm of Dwapar Yuga that keeps us stuck. This or that. It's the or paradigm. it does not know, when we are unconscious, we don't know how to hold the and together. Non-duality, awakening to our non-dual self, is to realize that that which I am is everything. At whatever my level of awareness, whatever is in as awareness is me. When we are able to hold ourselves in this pure consciousness that is unlimited, unbound, everything, there's nothing apart from me, manifesting itself as this limited play, as a body, as a plant, as a rock, as the air, all of it innately one. But as the mind, the way that mind is vibrating, creating this illusion of fragmentation, space. As if there's a you, there's a me. So that when we are conscious, we can play. We can co-create. The one self, pure, sheer creativity is what is Shakti. Manifested consciousness. Mind. But when unconscious, again, simply a flavor of play. So we can experience, these feeling disempowered and coming into self-empowerment even as a person. And then from that, the next dimensional shift of waking up from our so-called forgetting or the wailing of that we have put on ourselves. This is the paradox to be able to hold. As long as this is in response to the question received, as long as our eyes are opening, and even at that, if you're having an experience that your awareness is only from the body, right? That I'm only aware as if from my body, what I feel, what I touch, what I see. As long as that is there, that remember that that's simply the relative experience. That is why the invitation to go in. From thought, feeling, to being aware. We are both in that sense. This creates the paradox, right? The unlimited as if appearing to be limited. The never birthing or never being born or never dying. Eternal. I mean, pure consciousness is even beyond these are simply words, right? So even beyond what they say is eternal, but in that sense, pure consciousness coming into something as if I'm born, as if I'm going to die. This manifested consciousness is a play that is ever changing, ever changing. Identified with this, the grasping happens, especially to the parts that we feel we don't want to change, that shouldn't be changing. Holding the paradox is to see that which I am is untouched by any experience, by any form, by anything that seems that I can attain or lose. I am, period. And to be in that is our primary stance. The minute we are identified with anything that is limited and especially unconscious, there's no struggle we have when we are identified even with the limited, let's say body. If we are deep in play and nothing is limiting us. All this for the seeking mind arises when we are identified as a relative, limited, and then we start, the questions come, hitting walls. right? That the logical intellectual mind that is part of the limited world and only knows the limited world, this thinking intellectual mind, right? That's when things are not working. But that's simply an appearance of the second belief, very valid. When we are I am, that's it. Now this, holding this, then knowing that this is simply the play, and this, our primary identity, what I am, or if you're still identified as a person, what I believe I am, is what is reflected in the world. This comes later. The relative world is simply on the top. The gross level seeing. Identified only as that, there is separation. There is distance, there is space. That's why it feels like it takes a long time for things to happen. I am. Live in this space. That is why one of the most powerful things for us when we find ourselves as a person, even as a person, as thought, as if we are the body, is to first and foremost see everything leads to see the nature of the mind. You know, our teacher Ramana Maharshi would say, what's the point in going and looking at the world and trying to change it without even looking at the nature first of the self? If this resonates, it's only one divine being uniquely playing through us. That does not mean that life moves at its own thing. Does not mean that we don't go out and do that. That's not what it's pointing to. But this is the direct path. This is the direct path. The nature of the mind is reflected as the world, as the experience of the outer world. It is never about changing the world. It is about looking deeper at the self that perceives and experiences, becomes as if it's the world, its world. Not all of us are living the same world. And there's another response. That's why from that, when we're identified only with the relative, that unconscious state brings up narratives as somebody's lucky, somebody's privileged, somebody's not. Every question, everything points to the nature of the mind that is questioning and seeing, and elicits the response from that. There's no luck. Whether the mind that we're identified with knows it or not, this is a choice we have made. Where we find ourselves, whatever we choose is a choice that is made by that which we are at the soul level. I am soul. When we own that, then we can play this game beautifully. Otherwise, we are looking outwards unconsciously. And of course, I again want to name this because it is so paradoxical that there's nothing wrong even in this, because it's the one divine that is experiencing. Even these aspects of us, where we get lost in the world and we think it's the other, nothing is wrong. It's every life is uniquely playing. And if these words resonate, always hear, follow this. Sense deeply what resonates. Just absolutely reject, leave the rest. Because each state of mind is simply expressing its own story. Nothing more, nothing less. So conscious we've made this choice. Looking at our own life at whatever level. There's no rush, there's no nothing. The self is the world. We create the time and space. Be very mindful of the narratives, that we take on from the world. That points towards that we need to be anywhere else than where we are currently. Be aware. We already are that which we need, because we've set up this play. And it's a magical one as we are awakening. That's what's happening. Transformation at the level of the mind, of course. The experience of it, that the thinking linear mind puts it as transforming. That which we are is timeless. Timeless. And that's why the key, even as a person, see what you add after the I am. That is what you are going to live. I am going to live and experience. Such is the pure power of that which I am. Shakti. When we are identified with the outer world and we've taken on the conditions from the outer environment and world, naturally, right? We have many, many layers of ifs, buts, all of that. I am. Hold the paradox. And the key to holding this paradox is the primary identity. I am. Consciousness. Timeless. Everything that is and can be, whatever, even in this limited perception that I have, that's available, is all available. The invitation for Age of Aquarius that we're deepening into, if you're doing this as a person, take your highest stand. Take your highest stand in the possibility, however that resonates and comes alive in you. Take it. Stand there. Observe as your whole world shimmers, reflecting back that back to you. That the mind, known mind, intellectual mind, then naturally labels it as magic, miracle, synchronicities. We're living in one of the most exciting times. We've set up the game as such, right? Because without that, if we are everything already, where is the fun and discovery and surprise and sheer creativity to uniquely live this? Each one is the radiating self. To be the paradox, we need to be able to hold the paradox. That's why somebody else was asking, I want to repeat this. There is no need to resolve anything. Observe the nature of the I that is wanting to resolve or to do, right? The non-dual versus the dual. It's all happening. Also, another thing that another response for a question that was received, because the seeking mind is looking outwards for concepts. It's a conceptual mind, right? This is a concept, the thought. So naturally, see, every nature of each mind playground lives its own dynamics, all based on its own vibratory frequency that determines its identity. So if I live as a separate I self, personal self, I'm the person, that's a concept. So I look for concepts as a seeking mind. And based on that, then there is this confusion. So for the paradox, that's why the question being, you see some masters who, that's why, stand in that space of the non-dual space and reject everything that is happening in time and space, the other relative experience. What body? What thinking mind? Where's the person? What world? right? And it can cause such confusion. If you've been exploring this, you're like, what do you mean? I see the body. I see this. I feel this. Right? I have questions. Who has the question? So, these masters, like, so every teacher has a different flavor, So these masters who are standing are just absolutely inviting us to take our stand resolutely as the I am. Many a times these concepts then may not serve also, because everything is serving at the end, wherever, but it cannot mean sometimes, because if we are steeped in the Dwapar Yuga, right, as a person, and we are struggling with something, then these teachings do not meet us where we are. And then, of course, there is the world teachings, which teach you, effort, all of that. That also has its value, because when you're in the person, you're a doer. You need to do. That has its place. This is the center point. The paradox. Hold the paradox. Primarily, I am. That is the non-dual aspect. The relative always comes later. As the personal thought is an afterthought, the world is an afterthought. What we experience, I just want to share this. That's why they say even in the body, when things come up in matter, they've been simmering energetically for a long time. Even the transformation that we see of the collective in our world right now, the energetic aspects of this transformation has been happening for a long time. All that is showing up right now in the world of matter, for our five senses to perceive. It's the same. The invitation, that's why, from the masculine thought to come into the body, feminine. This is closer to the source of that which we are. And then back into the being. I am awareness, awakening. These are the exciting times that we are going through. And this is, I also want to name this because this is so unique. Shakti is neither boring, nor normal, nor predictable. Have you seen life? With the forms, even at the level of forms and colors and shapes. This is a teeny tiny part, what the five senses can perceive that we live as. Her infinite worlds, ideas are unfathomable. Pure sheer creativity, and we are that. And we are reminding this mind that we are playing this game of as if this limited mind. We are awakening our own selves. Move. And each one doing it at its own unique pace, in its own unique style. Simply saying, is this the way, even the seeking mind that looks outward, is this the way to awaken? Is this what is enlightenment? Is this thing? Every state of mind lives its own dynamic nature, such as pure creativity. Turn inwards. Look at the richness of that which you are. Consciousness. We are everything. That is why I also want to name something. Again, I only speak from my experience, I only speak of my story. I can only offer that. It's impossible to offer anything else. That is why, because this is in response to the question of the Dwapar Yuga mind, that is the five sensory mind, looks outwards. Many a times the narratives that you find in such teachings is also that we look outwards and we say, that is not true, that is not real. There are many concepts, right? I mean, some of some say, you know what, I've taken, I'm doing it the tantric way, I'm doing it this way, I'm doing yoga. Somebody says, I'm not doing yoga at all, I found ayahuasca to be a better way, and we'll hear all of this, right? Some say completely the Vedantic way, like a yogi, you need to be like a yogi, you need to give up everything, all these things that are whatever this thing. And there are so many nuances to this, how to awaken. And as a seeking mind, which is already awakened, I'll put the link down there where I've made a video on that, about the seeker's mind already arriving. It's only the last part of our head that is still thinking we haven't. It's already done. But then wants to look as if, because it feels it's the doer, it needs to make it happen. It doesn't know how to just simply be, right? That's part of our play. So then looks outwards. Is this the way? Is that the way? Is that the way? What resonates to you is your way. Period. Pure consciousness, becoming, manifested consciousness, Shakti, the truth that which we are as pure consciousness, as Shiva, cannot be uttered. Any truth that is uttered is a subjective truth. That is the liberating power. Every mind can hold its subjective truth, and it speaks the flavor of it, which is simply a pointer, because that which we are at the level of Shiva cannot be spoken about directly anyways. That's why everything that a mind expresses, everything is simply a reflection of its own nature. We see what we are, we speak what we are, we do what we are. This is how beautifully we have set up this game. In the same sense, there is no independent truth or reality or anything that lies outside of ourselves. So when we chase others or teachers or gurus, again, simply a part of experience, right? Nothing wrong. But when we do that, as if there is an outer truth, they're only going to reflect back to you their experience. That's all. But every mind has its own unique way of awakening. Trust that. Trust that. The mind loves to compare and arrive to one. Why? Again, Dwapar Yuga. The experience of many people living in as if one world that we have to share. So naturally we think reality is also like that. One reality that all of us need to arrive to as a consensus. Okay, you agree, you agree, you agree, you agree. Then I agree. Then that is what the truth must be. No. Each mind self is a rich, rich creation of its own world. Trust that. Because the gift and the creativity that is born from your expression, your perspective of your creative world, cannot come forth through anyone else. Cannot. When we look outwards, right, it's been our experience, at least has been mine. We look outwards, denying the sheer creativity that is coming through us. We deny the gift that we are to our world, which is very much needed. Well, to put it in words, right? There's only one self playing. So trust. Your way of seeing the world, your way of being your world is unique, simply for the joy of it. If you want to share it, share. If not, doesn't matter. That's not the point. Hold the paradox of the I am, being, becoming. But this becoming, remember, hold it loosely, it's an illusion. But as the pure consciousness, no experience can change the consciousness that which we are. All this change, born, dying, all of that, simply at the level of surface level, right? This is where the teachings come from the Bhagavad Gita, and all of the masters, everybody eventually pointing to this, is that detachment. And this is the paradox again. Absolute attachment is radical detachment. When everything is what I am, the self, the paradox of attachment and detachment dissolves. There's nothing. To be attached, there needs to be another. To be detached, there needs to be another. That dissolves. I am is all that remains. To hold this paradox, to be this being our primary, is disillusion of this paradox. In Dwapar Yuga, duality, right? The minute the split happens, I'm going to make another video about this, but to share my perception, simply a perspective of the structure of Shakti, reality, the way that it happens. We'll see that. The high, low, far, here, all that is happening comes into dissolution. When the self, the personal separate self dissolves, so does the paradox. So this moment is all there is. And this moment, without thought, without time, space, is I am. It needn't even be worded. Standing as our highest possibility, that we even cannot really name that which we are. This is the core. Hold the paradox. If you're identified with the relative world, that's when the questions arise, the confusion arises, the limitation arises. With this, there's nothing to resolve. The non-dual itself is the dual. There's no difference. The dual is the non-dual. There's nothing to resist, nothing to reject, nothing to deny, nothing to change, nothing to fix, nothing to work at. Neither the self, neither the world. Both are the same. That's the invitation of the age of Aquarius. Living as intuition, Shruti, beyond the Smriti, memory, mind. I am Swadharma, Swatantra, Sarva Mangalam, auspicious blessedness. Every mind can live whatever it defines for itself is what it will experience. When we hold this at the experience level, we are at the relative level experience. No perception, no experiences outside what we have defined it to be. With this stance of our true stance, we can play this game. Sheer creativity, that's the invitation. To living and loving that which we are, an awakened body, mind, world. One of the other questions that's coming up that has been really one of the constant ones, to do or not to do. I'm going to make another video on that. I'll put the link down there as well. Have a beautiful day. Much love.